Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl East.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summit.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Andy Bernstein, and I am thrilled to be on with Pete A. Turner on the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, so you are incredible.
Well, thanks, Pete. That's all you got to say.
And
we're done.
So yeah, I'm trying to. We have a lot of people on who do incredible work that you wouldn't necessarily know who they were if you ran into them at the store, even if they said their name. Like, there's just people that, like Nathan East plays bass for Eric Clapton. Maybe you've taken his picture. He's played bass for Phil Collins. Chick Corea, they fly him on airplanes to go do things.
Wow.
But not everybody knows his name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But he's like one of the best bassists literally in the world. And so you have one of those jobs where people might know who you are, but your job is to make Kobe look great, or whoever it is that you're photographizing, whoever you're taking pictures of. So for the audience, you're Andrew Bernstein, and you take pictures primarily of sports people, but also music, but here in LA. So you've been the team photographer for the Dodgers, but you also do all of like the Staples Center complex teams.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
Some days I have to wear the hats interchangeably. Primarily, I am the senior photographer for the NBA. That's kind of my biggest hat. I've been working with the NBA now. I've been in my 37th season as their senior official photographer. Hand in hand with that, I'm team photographer for the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparx, the three teams that play out of Staples Center, as well as the LA Kings. They've been a longtime client of mine over 30 years. And the other hat that I wear is director of photography for AEG, Staples Center, and Microsoft Theater and LA Live. So we are busy. We got this is our busiest time of year actually right now. We have multiple things going on. You're here in my office right now, and about 10 feet away is Kristen, who's frantically trying to assign photographers to assignments that are coming up, almost hourly. Yeah. And knock on wood, fake or real, it's a wonderful situation to be in because my guys, are great. I like to keep them working. We have some downtime in the summer where we're not as busy, so we are very fortunate to have this time of year be our busy time. But my attention mostly is on the NBA and shooting all Lakers and Clippers home games this time of year, as well as traveling. And with LeBron now being at the Lakers, the NBA has me traveling to most of the Western Conference cities that the Lakers are playing in. Just came back from San Antonio, home for the game tonight, heading out to Houston on Wednesday for the game there. So it's it's kind of a revolving door of never-ending stuff. And my age, it's a little harder now to kind of get the motor running, but I'm doing the best I can and keep doing it.
When almost 40 years ago, you started doing all this NBA, like the main photographer, the Lakers, all these things. Yeah. You got to be, you're not that old. You're not 100, so.
Dude, turned 60 last year, which totally blew my mind.
Right.
We had a big disco blowout party.
Nice.
At the Conga Room downtown, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sit back. It's so crazy. Like Luke Walton, for example, is a good friend. I knew Luke when he was 4 years old.
Right, yeah.
He used to go to games with Bill, his dad, who played for the Clippers back in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
And, I shot his whole career in college at Arizona, then shot his whole NBA career, and now he's the coach of the Lakers.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just laugh about it because, it's just so crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. That's what I was getting. Like, when you started these jobs multi-decades ago, was it what you do is a calling that a lot of people feel. I want to be a photographer, and some people go later in life like, I'm going to be an office clerk, but on the side I'm going to become a wedding photographer.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. But you figured it out early. Was there something about what you did, or were you like, I kept asking until they told me to get the hell out, and then they handed me a camera and said, how did you do that so early? Because you're in your early 20s when you get this job there.
Yeah, for sure. I was really motivated. I grew up in New York, a Brooklyn kid. the values that my family, my dad especially, instilled in me was kind of never-ending energy, ruthless pursuit of what you wanted, never taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And when he gave me my first camera when I turned 14, I just took to it, immediately. And then right after I got the camera, we went on a trip out west in all the national parks, which I had never seen before, and photographed those. And then when that school year started, I had a good friend who had a dark room in his basement, and I went down there and literally watched the magic happen in front of me. I mean, anyone who's ever been in a dark room and has seen the print come up in the solution for the first time, it's literally like mind-blowing. So I was hooked, and I went to a big high school, and we had a newspaper, we had a yearbook, we had theater shows, all kinds of sports, so I just gravitated. I always had a camera on my shoulder every single day in high school. And then went to University of Massachusetts, where we had a daily newspaper, and I quickly became the assistant photo editor there and was shooting all kinds of general news assignments. And unfortunately, I wasn't learning really anything about the science of photography or being taught anything except on the job, by other photographers and the photo editor there. So reluctantly, really, I transferred. I knew I had, if I was going to pursue this as a career, I had to kind of go all in. So I transferred to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, which is the #1 commercial art school.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You were at UMass.
I was at UMass.
And then you're like, forget all that.
Yeah, I had a great time at UMass. I mean, I was actually earning a living.
Did you have connections out here?
No, I had none. I got to back up to the summer of '77, and I was out here visiting my sister, and through a chain of events, I was introduced to Art Center, and took a night class there, and really had an epiphany, honestly.
Talk about that.
Well, I was staying with my sister all summer, and she was filming a little movie called Grease. You might have heard of it.
I have. I love that movie.
She was in it. She played Frenchie in Grease.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, and I actually was going to the set with her every single day. I haven't talked about this very much, so you're kind of one of the first people to know. And her name is Didi Khan, and she was taking me to the set because I had really nothing else to do. I was watching this photographer named Alan Pepe, who was really probably the preeminent set photographer in Hollywood. He was the guy that when you were doing a big movie, you'd call this guy. And he was there every single day, and I just kind of hung out with him a little bit and saw when the pictures came back and the proof sheets and how meticulous he was and how he did his job, sort of very stealthily. He got in, he got out, and I was fascinated by it. And I brought my camera, and this is the days when nobody really cared. I brought my camera to the set, and I took some pictures. I showed it to him, and he said to my sister, he said, your brother has a little bit of talent. Maybe, on nights that you're not filming or whatever, could go take a class at this place, Art Center. Had a night class, a summer kind of workshop almost. And I went up there and took this class, and I remember this like it was yesterday. This is like 41 years ago.
Yeah.
She was living in Hollywood. I drove down the hill, the Sunset Boulevard, and all the billboards have photos on them, this ad or that ad or whatever. And for the first time ever, I looked up. I said, "That's a photograph of a perfume bottle, or a model, or a car, or a travel, or whatever the heck it is. Cigarettes back then, whatever." Somebody had to take that picture. Like, there's like a career here, and that just kind of blew me right out of the water. And then I knew I had to up my game. I told UMass I was leaving. I applied to Art Center, got in right away. They accepted me actually earlier than I thought, so I actually came into the spring term in spring of '78. The rest is kind of history. I very quickly started working for Sports Illustrated as an assistant through a couple of teachers that I had who were very, very generous with me and recognizing my talent when the rest of the school really didn't. Trying to be diplomatic about it, but the school was very hardcore commercial and advertising, and I was really the black sheep. But these two teachers really pushed me and didn't let me get discouraged. And my one teacher, Bill Robbins, who's still my dear friend and mentor, introduced me to some Sports Illustrated guys, and I learned really on assignment how to be a working sports photographer.
Yeah.
And what really helped, Pete, was that Sports Illustrated, when they would shoot hockey and basketball games, they would light the arenas with these giant strobe units, big flashes that would have to be roped up or carried up to the catwalk in whatever arena you were in just for that game. And you would get there at 10 o'clock in the morning. You work with a rigger, usually 2 assistants doing this. Take about 3 to 4 hours to set up. Then you'd get the photographer ready for the game. He would shoot the whole game. You would help him with his film and whatever remote cameras he was doing. Then you'd have to break the whole thing down. It was like a 16-hour day. But I learned the ropes. It was a very specialized technique that only SI was doing. So to get my foot in the door, I was meeting people at the Forum, Lakers and Kings, and I was meeting people at other teams. I offered to, being the sort of mensch that I was back then, I offered to put my strobes in. I bought a set of strobes used, and in exchange for letting me put them in and giving me a credential to shoot the game, I would give them pictures, the teams or the arena. And it was just a great, fortuitous being in the right place at the right time. Showtime had just started.
Yeah.
And
what a fun time.
The NBA was really ramping up. And my good friend, I remember this too, like it was yesterday. It was literally... It was 1982, November of 82. My good friend at the Lakers, the PR guy, said, hey, the NBA just announced they're having the All-Star game here in February. Maybe you should go meet with so-and-so back at the league office and introduce yourself, and maybe they could use a photographer. So I went back to New York to visit family at the Holiday and went to meet with this guy, Porter McKinnon, and he hired me for, I don't know, $100, whatever it was. One thing led to the next, and... that was my first gig for the NBA, and that was that.
We're talking with Andrew Bernstein, who's you'd have to say world-famous photographer. I mean, we've all seen your pictures. I mean, all of them. And I'm looking at the new book, Kobe Bryant, The Mamba Mentality, How I Play, and these are your pictures in here, and they're just fantastic.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask...
Are you a Kobe fan, by the way? Laker fan?
I would say I am a Kobe appreciator.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm a fanatic.
Yeah.
And I have nothing bad to say about Kobe, but I just...
How could you not appreciate the talent and the drive that this guy had?
Yeah, well, you've seen a lot of players. Let me ask you, so there's always the talk of and I'm not a big GOAT kind of person, right? Because once you are above the greatness line, whether it's Wilt or... Kareem, you're above it. You're in the club. There's no point in figuring out who's the best of the best because it's just silly. Just get over the line. But when it comes to someone like Kobe versus Michael or LeBron, who's here now in town, can you see a difference? You've seen these guys play night after night after night.
Well, it's great. It's a great thing you brought up, Pete. We're always everyone on talk radio, blogs, everywhere, social media, always comparing, who's the greatest and who's the top 10 and whoever the. So I brought this subject up to Coach K on my podcast, Legends of Sport, and he's a great friend and a great guest.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, let me put it to you this way. There's a room somewhere with 10 chairs in it.
Yeah.
Okay? And these 10 guys belong in that room. It doesn't matter who's sitting in what chair.
Doesn't matter. Right. Totally.
So, there's 400 or so guys in the NBA. We were just talking about the NBA. They had to be great to get to the NBA, right?
Yeah.
They're 1/10 of 1% of guys who've played basketball since 8th grade,
right?
Who made it to the NBA. So you have to be great. But then there's that extra level of greatness, that icon status. I don't know if it's another gear, if it's extra chromosome. I don't know what these guys have.
Right.
But all the guys you mentioned, Bird, Magic, Jordan, Wilt, Dr. J, Kareem, of course Kobe, Shaq. Now we got Durant and Curry and of course LeBron. So they all belong in that room. Unfortunately I didn't get to see Jerry West and Elgin play.
Sure.
And I wish that I had the opportunity not only to see them play but to photograph them.
Right.
Because they're legendary. But those guys apparently belong in that room with Oscar Robertson,
Yeah.
So
I guess we should say the word Bill Russell too.
Bill Russell, of course,
Yeah.
the GOAT himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bill gets the first chair, from what I've heard. All right.
Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't be a center nowadays, but he'd still have 11 rings.
11 rings. I mean, the guy ran out of fingers. For God's sake.
Right.
So what makes these guys great is really the essence of the Mamba mentality.
Okay.
You know, is really what Kobe's talking about in the book. That what set him apart, what in his process and his preparation and his craft, which is how the book is set up, at process and craft. What made him a 5-time champion, 2-time Olympian, MVP? It's that extra something that he now is trying to impart to his readers and his fans. And you could be a sports fan or not a sports fan, because the Mamba mentality can be taken into business. It can be taken into your personal life. It can be taken into your, I would think, into parenting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he and I have talked about all that. I've been very fortunate. I was very fortunate to be with him from day one with his 18-year-old rookie. You know,
Yeah.
Fast forward probably 500,000 photos later, and you know, to his last season and walking off the court, scoring 60 points in this magical finish. And I'll be there when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. I beat him to the Hall of Fame, and I'll never let him forget that.
You're at a couple of Halls of Fame.
Well, this is the big one. The Naismith Basketball
Yeah.
Hall of Fame honored me this year.
Yeah.
So the first guy I told was Kobe, and I said, you know, you might have all those rings and those Olympic gold medals, but
Yeah.
I got here first, buddy.
So, do you have the smallest jacket size of all of the Hall of
Well,
Fame?
luckily I don't get that ugly, that nice orange jacket. But I did get a nice trophy and got
Yeah.
to make a speech, and you know, it was all cool. It's not enshrinement per se,
Right.
like the players and the coaches get enshrined.
But come on, we're talking semantics. You were
Yeah.
captured and you were represented in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's an award called the Kurt Gowdy Award
Sure.
for media, and it's given to 2 people every year, one in electronic and one in print.
Mhm.
And my dear friend Doris Burke got the electronic media award, and I was awarded the print media award, which only the second photographer had ever received that.
Right.
It's always been to a writer, which I love. I love writers, but we also are in print too.
Boy,
as
you guys tell
photographers.
such a great story. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys' story, like a picture's worth 1,000 words, but sometimes it's one word.
Mhm.
You know, that picture, like you can think of iconic pictures that come up, Tiananmen Square,
Mhm. Yeah.
the baby in Oklahoma City with the firefighter. You know,
Sure.
those are like, and they just stick with you much more than an article ever
Yeah.
could.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's been some amazing sports writing. Like we're just talking sports. You know, the great Jim Murray and
Sure.
and so many great writers. I mean, that all of us have grown up with. But what we do as photographers is really record a moment in time. What you're really referring to is a moment in time that will never happen again, that we are trained to be able to be prepared to get. And for me to be on that stage, you know, year after year after year, you know, says something, I guess, about longevity, but the fact that I can still produce, you know,
Yeah.
and that I'm still prepared and I still love what I do. Because if you don't love what you do,
Come on.
it's time to start doing something else.
I have a lot of questions about the artistic side of what you do, but I want to ask first a technical question. How do you get the shot where you're elevated and through the backboard? Are you telephoto kind of thing?
Or balance myself on the. No, I'm kidding, Pete. Come on.
I climb up. Yeah.
No, Pete. What we do is, in addition to using this big strobe system, and keep in mind, you know, I'm not going to get into a lot of technical
Sure.
stuff, but with the strobe system, I can only shoot one picture every 4 seconds. So it's not like when you see the motor drive, you know, and then you pick out one out of those 10 pictures that were taken in a second.
Right.
I can only take one picture, then I got to count to 4 in my head, and then I could shoot another picture because these strobes are big, clunky pieces of equipment that have to recycle themselves back up, right?
Sure.
So if you shoot in between that 4 seconds, you're not going to get anything. So I have to, myself and others who do this, we have to train ourselves to really count to 4 in your head. So concurrently with the strobes, we're able to do these remote cameras where we put cameras in strategic positions all around the court. And I'll show you something on the wall later, but it really illustrates how you can record the same moment in time, but it's not the same picture.
Right.
And this was all born out of Michael Jordan going crazy and dunking like
Everywhere,
you know,
all the time.
everywhere,
Yeah.
all the time. And the NBA wanting to figure out how can we really exploit this dunk and really value it and be able to market it to different entities and sometimes competing entities. Like
Sure.
2 different trading card companies, 2 different posters, 2 different magazines. But obviously you can't sell the same picture to competing entities, so you can sell the same moment,
right,
shot from different positions. So we worked at the NBA. We worked with an outfit, a company out of Vermont. These MIT egghead guys who didn't know anything about sports photography, but they wanted to design a system that would allow the strobes to synchronize with multiple cameras that go off at the same time, all by radio, controlled, not by hard wiring. We used to do it by hard wire, which would take days to set up.
Yeah.
You can imagine hard wiring an arena from the catwalk to the basket to everywhere.
And inevitably, there's a problem in that system somewhere.
Yeah,
like
of
all
course.
the time.
No, it was crazy. It was nuts. So, anyway, it took 2 years of R&D and a lot of aggravation and frustration and games where we got nothing to really perfecting the system. And now this is what we use in the NBA.
Where do you want to be? Like, games on the line. It doesn't matter if it's finals or not, but it's just like it's the point of the story. Because basketball has that thing where it just seems to draw the teams together at the end. One team's slowing down, the other. But and so you've got Jordan, you've got Kobe, whoever it's going to be. That person is about to take over the game. I'm assuming you want to be on their side. But where do you want to be as you prepare to tell that part of the story?
Well, first of all, I want to be in the building and not on my couch.
Right.
So that's where I want to be first and foremost. I want to be on the court. I'll tell you what I don't want to be is I don't want to be behind some ref's butt that I can't see what's going on. But we have contingencies for that. So let's take Michael Jordan's 0.6 shot in the finals.
Okay.
I forget what year that was, but
Is that the one against the Jazz?
yeah.
Okay.
So he faked Byron Russell, went up. Okay, so that all happened on my side of the court.
Yeah.
But in that millisecond where he juked out Russell and then jumped, a ref went right in front of me, and I couldn't actually see, so I was blocked. So all I could see was the bottom of his shoes.
Right.
But we have a photographer. Our protocol is to put another photographer on the other side of the court who's shooting a wide shot.
That's one of your guys.
Yeah, and
Okay.
in those days, I was able to trigger him as like a human remote.
Okay.
So that picture you see, that Fernando Medina shot, I actually pushed the button that fired his camera.
Yeah.
Of course, he had to compose it. He had to be in focus. This was before autofocus.
Right.
And he did a fantastic job, but that's how that picture happened.
Yeah.
So, in contrast to Derek Fisher's 0.4 shot, game-winning shot against San Antonio in the conference finals, I think it was 2005, I was on the other side. So, protocol being what it was, I shot wide, right, and was able to get Derek in the air with the ball in the air, and it's saying 0 on the clock, and rest is history. But I was lucky to get that shot.
Yeah.
So we have to be prepared with other photographers being there. Sometimes, I just can't get it. I mean,
Right.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But
there's so many opportunities
yeah.
to get pictures, though, right?
yes, but again, it's all through preparation.
Yeah.
We now have a photographer. At the finals, for example, we have a couple of elevated photographers who are shooting from the TV position, so they're seeing the court from that perspective, and they're not really getting blocked in any way. So they can, at least we have that as a backup if we need it.
How many pictures do you guys take in a game?
Well, an average game, I have a game tonight. I'll shoot, around 1,000 pictures.
And then do you own all of those, or
No,
is that the
the
NBA?
NBA owns all
right,
that,
because
yeah.
they'll take and use them, right?
Yeah. We do what's called live coverage. It's close to live, like TV live, as you can get, being a still photographer. That means that all my cameras are tethered. They are all attached to a high-speed Ethernet line that sends my photos immediately from my camera back to an editor in Secaucus, New Jersey,
Right.
who's sitting at his...
What's your editor's name?
Well, it depends. They have,
Okay.
they have various editors night to night.
Okay.
And they're receiving from all of us throughout the league who are shooting. So, like tonight being a Monday, there's probably maybe 4 games or so.
Right.
But on a Sunday or a Thursday, which are big nights for the NBA, they could be 12, 13 games going on. And so there are multiple editors receiving. Some of those editors receiving 2 or 3 games at the same time.
Boy.
And they're editing. They're selecting the photos in the moment, captioning them very quickly, and then sending them to Getty, and Getty is then posting them on their Getty Images site. So it's pretty much live.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening within minutes.
As fast as anybody else can do it.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And that's, of course, light years different than it used to be.
I was going to say, does anybody shoot on film anymore?
No, film is a 4-letter word now in our
Right.
business because it's just too slow.
It's too slow, right?
We might do a special portrait series or some kind of documentary thing doesn't depend on being timely.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us still, not me, unfortunately, but some of my friends still try to get some film in the camera once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I did.
So you still you feel like that even with the filters and all the other manipulation you can do with digital, you can't still get that warmth, I'm assuming?
Well, it's kind of like, the difference between shooting a film, a motion picture on film, and shooting it on video or shooting it on digital. There's just that texture, that difference, that little something, that depth, that you just don't get with digital. Digital is all ones and zeros. And film is an actual tangible thing you can like hold in your hand,
right? And
you can actually see. I created this. I don't know about ones and zeros. I don't know about where that ends up in the universe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Franz Strine has been on the show. He did a movie called Hired Gun, and it was highly acclaimed. It's a great movie. It's about all of like the musicians who are not Eric Clapton. Like Nathan East, I think, is in it. The Kodak guy's like, the next time you shoot a film, it's going to be on film.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much. There's too much there. And I like to think of it. It's like if I had, like my modern car, my truck, which is a simple truck, is 1,000 times better than your '69 Camaro. But
it's not a '69 Camaro. Doesn't have the feel of it, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that's why you're seeing vinyl make a comeback now. Who ever thought that would happen? That with all the technology we had with CDs, first cassettes and CDs, and then the MP3s and all the digital, that people now want to go back to hear the scratchy LPs, that we put in the garage. And I have friends who have gone back to doing film, doing things on film. And a lot of the shows that you're seeing now on TV are done on film.
Yeah.
And motion pictures. So I think it's great.
There's a place for it, for sure.
Yeah.
So when you take pictures, obviously in terms of basketball, time can be a big factor, and having the shot clock in the background or the game clock in the background. But are those the pinnacle pictures, like those special moments where it's, maybe it's even after the game? That's always a touching point.
Sure. I mean, there's multiple. My job has many layers, multiple priorities. Now it's a big priority, believe it or not, to get photos of these players as they come into the games, because it's all about what are they wearing, and all their social media depends on how they look and what designer or what, whatever. So our protocol now across the league is we have to shoot these guys arriving. We never used to do that.
Right.
And then shoes are a huge thing.
Yeah.
We have to shoot almost every guy's shoes every single game, isolated, tight shot of the shoes. There are websites, social media sites that are just devoted to what these guys are wearing every night.
Crazy.
I mean, it's insane. I'll get tweets like within minutes of when I shot LeBron's shoes or Russell Westbrook, whoever. I'll get a tweet that such and such site just posted one of my photos. Yeah. And they don't really care about the action; they're caring about what the guy's wearing.
What he's wearing, what model that is. Oh, he's got some Gen 2 Jordans on tonight.
Yeah, and then once the ball goes up, it's all about the action, and it's all about the matchup, and we have certain ways that we have to shoot in terms of isolated action for a lot of the needs the NBA has, with everything from trading cards and posters to what the team needs. I'm very conscious of what the teams are looking for. If there's a milestone, like for example.
So this is all in your head, or is there someone helping you? Don't forget.
It's in my head, but we have I have people around me who always are reminding me. Hey, like we just had LeBron. I think he hit 5 on the list, or all-time scoring list, or whatever. So, hey, that free throw, he's going to now move into 5th place.
Sure.
So I have to be aware of that.
Right.
I mean, if I don't get it, that's not a good thing.
And is that coming from like the TV booth where they have that person spitting that information out, or is that?
No, we get that ahead of time.
Okay.
And then my assistant will remind me. He'll say, hey, I think he needed 31 points, and he was at 29.
Right.
And hey, these 2 free throws, he's going to put him over.
Yeah.
So I have really great people working with me. I never say they're working for me. I say they're working with me because we're really a team. And without them, I honestly could not do what I do.
Yeah.
And they're the backbone of what I do. And
how many people does it take to pull off a game?
Well,
like
a typical Laker
game,
there's 4 of us, sometimes 5 of us, depending on what the team needs for marketing. And I have a photographer there just shooting marketing and sponsorship needs for the team.
Right.
Doesn't shoot any action, just shoots everything around the game that's going on.
Does that include like all the celebs and stuff?
No, it includes all the sponsored elements.
Okay.
So everything from what the Laker girls are wearing, T-shirts, that they're giving out as incentive that night, to all the messaging on the board, the fan fest outside, and all that.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
Incentive that night, to all the messaging on the board, the fan fest outside, and all that. So he shoots that. Then I have a second photographer who's shooting action from an elevated position, and I have my main assistant who is in charge of getting all these cameras set up and getting me ready for the game. And then we have an intern, like second assistant person, who's kind of support to him. So, that's 5 people every game.
Yeah.
Some games is only 2 of us.
Right.
I'll go to a Clipper game is myself and my main assistant. Kings games is usually 2 to 3 of us. So, yeah. So I always have help. I mean, I'm never out there stranded.
So I know in this I'm going to make a leap over to the spy side and everything, but like you go out on a combat patrol every night and it's super hot. You're in Baghdad. It's 120 degrees at 9 at night,
That's crazy.
And sometimes you look at your rig, like your gear, your body armor and everything, your helmet and everything, and you're just like, oh. I mean, you're going to go.
Yeah.
You have to.
Do you ever think, like, why am I doing this?
No, I mean, I knew why I was doing it.
I
have a specific thing. But you do look at it and go, God, it's so heavy. It's still sweaty because we did a double patrol, and I've got to put on sweaty, wet, heavy gear. And you must have those times where, like, NBA and NHL playoffs are in the same dang time. There must be times where you're like, I've got to get to whatever. And it's hard.
Well, it's tough, Pete, because Kobe and I actually talked about this on my podcast about the trade-off, that there's sacrifice in all of our work. I don't think there's any line of work where you're not sacrificing something in your personal life. And in my business, professional sports, Kobe speaking as an athlete, I mean, he has to be completely focused and locked in, especially if he's recovering from an injury or working on his game, that's his priority, and he has to have a family that understands that. And I like to call it a revolving door of priorities in life. That my wife, my kids understood it when they were growing up, and now I have a little one at home who's 10, and I do think quite a bit like, wow, this is like, how much longer can this revolving door be going around? And I'm on an early flight or a late flight, or I'm away from something that's happening at school. But that's the business that we chose.
Sure.
Isn't that out of The Godfather? I think. Hyman Roth said that or something. But it is the business we chose, the life we chose, and that again is part of this whole Mamba mentality idea. This obsession with what you do. Kobe and I bonded really early over this mutual obsession. To basketball, him as an athlete, me as somebody who recorded it. Yeah. And we never really verbalized it until we started doing this book together, and it really came across that we, he's got a great quote that he said publicly that if you're not obsessed with what you do, we don't speak the same language.
Sure.
So all those years we kind of spoke the same language, not really realizing that this obsession was really our bonding agent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the book is called Kobe Bryant, The Mamba Mentality, How I Play, and it's gorgeous. I mean, introductions by Phil Jackson. This is a wonderful book, and it goes all through it. He talks about facing Allen Iverson and that kind of thing. And, you know, I want to bring up the Allen Iverson comparison because Allen is clearly brilliant and all-time brilliant in his ability to play. But when it comes to being in that room with 10 chairs, he's missing things. Doesn't have the championships, doesn't have the longevity. And yeah, you have to have a crew around you. Maybe you can say he didn't have a crew, but there's also something in his mentality, I think at least, where he didn't have. When we talk about someone like LeBron James, and I'll say this, you don't say anything about LeBron James, and people talk about him being the GOAT. I look and go, I'd put Dennis Rodman on him, and let's see who wins the game. You know, because Dennis Rodman was just over the top with his ability to sacrifice everything and be relentless and intense and push outside of the game on you all the time.
Sure. Yeah, that would be an interesting matchup, Rodman on LeBron. In fact, there's a picture in my book with Kobe, where he's getting sandwiched between Rodman and Jordan. Yeah. And the headline on that photo, which was Kobe's idea, was, quote, "This was fun." Yeah. So this is how this guy approached stuff. There was never a challenge that he ever backed down to. In fact, he met every challenge and then upped the ante every time. Yeah. But going back to Iverson, you know, he's got demons that he had to deal with. Yeah. And it's all about how you deal with it and who you have around you. And you know, I think Allen, I'm an optimist, and I think that the best is in front of him if he gets the right people around him and chooses to make good choices in his life. Part of my new platform, Legends of Sport, will deal with athletes who have some trouble off the court, off the playing field, after retirement, in transition. Because as we know, once the spotlight moves, your ego takes a big hit. Boy. And if you don't have something to back up, or some other ventures or interests or whatever, it could be a very difficult transition. So we're trying to kind of bring that spotlight back, and make these athletes sort of relevant again for what they did when they were iconic as players and athletes.
Yeah, let's talk about your podcast a little bit, because I know I produced Mark Patterson's podcast. He's a former Raider. Oh, okay. And he's like, we all fall off the cliff. Yeah. You can be prepared, you can have a strong life and everything else, but everything you've tried to be up to this point, it does at some point go away. Yeah. And you transition. Yeah. And actually, as we're saying this, I want to capture this for posterity because it's great, but yesterday Harold Baines got a phone call, like, you're in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And you got to imagine, he's like, no, come on, quit messing with me. Yeah. But that comes way later, right? And for Harold, as a surprise. But when you guys are capturing these things, what brought about let's just talk about the podcast in general. What was the inspiration? You guys have done a number of shows already. What stands out?
Well, I've been for a long time wanting to start a new platform with two partners, two very good friends of mine who are very connected in the world of sports. That sort of celebrates, memorializes, and honors iconic athletes, moments, teams, venues, and personalities in sport. There really isn't a one-stop shopping place to go. I'll give you this quick example, but I grew up a '69 Mets fan. The Mets were my team. When my older kids were growing up, I wanted to teach them about the '69 Mets. There was no place to go.
Everybody gets a Ron Swoboda shirt.
Yeah,
you get one.
But there was no place to go. You would Google it, and 90 things come up, and the first 3 pages are all ads, and then these millennials, if they can't push something and see something immediately, they're not going to screw around. They're out of the room. They go do something else. So that concurrently with seeing in my work iconic legends not really doing well at post-retirement, or at least struggling, or people not knowing who they are. Yeah. I mean, that just blew my mind. It looked like there was a place in the sports landscape for kind of this one platform. So we're developing a platform called Legends of Sport, The kicking off point is the podcast, which can be found on Apple Podcasts. And we just finished season 1, 32 shows.
Yeah.
Just released a special with Kobe 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to launch season 2 in January. And I'm talking to iconic people in and around sports, retired athletes, owners such as Peter Guber, somebody who's been influential in sports.
Sure.
My boss at Staples Center, he's a legend of sport. He truly is Lee Zeidman. He runs the busiest arena in the world.
Right.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, but even people that are sort of names, but people don't really know about them, like Mike Smith, the jockey. You know, he's a Hall of Fame Triple Crown winner.
Sure.
People don't really know much about him. He was sitting where you were 3 days after he won the Triple Crown, and got to hear his story. Amy Alcott, an amazing Hall of Fame golfer. I didn't know anything about Amy, but I found out so much about her. You know, of course, icons like Magic Johnson and Kirk Gibson, Oral Hershiser, Eric Dickerson, some really, really great guests. So we have a great lineup coming up in season 2, so stay tuned. People should follow us on our Instagram, at Legends of Sport, and our Twitter, LOS Podcast 1. But also, really, check us out on Apple iTunes, Legends of Sport.
Legends of Sport. Yeah, definitely give these guys a 5-star review and subscribe and rating, because my people, they love these kinds of things, and they listen to podcasts because they want this kind of stuff, and tons of them are sports fans.
Yeah, it was a whole new world for me. I do have a TV show on the Laker Network called Through the Lens, where I sit with a Laker personality and talk about their career through my photos. But that was my comfort level, because basketball is, you know, most knowledgeable, and most of these people are friends of mine. So sitting down with somebody I honestly don't know and having to do research, and my producer, you know, and I really digging deep into their history and what made them an icon and what made them tick, what was their Mamba mentality. Right. And then getting to sit with Kobe was just fantastic, because you know, getting him to open up on the podcast like he did in the book was so much fun, and I think it was our best one, actually, our best podcast. What have you learned from hosting these things? Because you're a visual camera guy. Now I had to learn first and foremost not to interrupt. Yeah, shutting up. Because you know, I come from a family of interrupters, so I had to stop interrupting, which is what my executive producer told me. He said, "Just listen, okay? Don't comment. Don't." I used to do yeah, a lot, which I still do. And I probably am doing that with you and not even realizing. But also, don't go for the obvious question. Yeah, people don't want to hear the obvious. I mean, they want to hear. I'll give you an example. We got Kirk Gibson on the podcast. Okay. And we talked all about his history and his battle now with Parkinson's, and how he's trying to overcome that, and how he's trying to get awareness for Parkinson's, and what impact he had on the Dodgers when he first came there. Because I was there. I was their team photographer. I literally was there in the moment that the eye black incident happened with Jesse Orosco during spring training. Yes, but he lost his mind. That set the tone for that team for the entire year. Tommy Lasorda credits that with getting those guys like focused, because Kirk was pissed. Yeah. And we and Kurt would kick your ass, right? And so we're talking, and Kirk was great. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, guys, I got to go. You know, I got to go pick up whatever." And he was literally in his truck doing the podcast in Detroit or Michigan somewhere. Like, dude, we didn't talk about the home run. Yeah. So I also learned you got to get in like the most important thing at some point early in the podcast, because we didn't get him back, but I think the podcast was still good. Yeah. He didn't really want to talk about the home run, obviously, but that's what everybody, I guess, was tuned in to kind of know about. Yeah. A lot has been said. A lot has been written. Sure. Been documentaries on the home run. So if somebody wants to know the backstory of the home run, go to those sources. That's what I do. I refer people to other things. Like if you want to learn Kirk's backstory, go to Legends of Sport and listen to that, because it covers that. Let's cover something else. Thank you, Pete. You know, that kind of thing, right? And I want to ask you as the photographer, there's that moment where Eckersley throws the pitch. Yeah. And then Kirk's getting ready to get back in right before he hits the home run. And he takes that step back, and he remembers the scouting report, backdoor slider, right. 2-2, right? Right. Is there a picture of that moment, do you think? that's a good question.
With the little bubble above his head of going 2-2 slider backdoor. Yeah.
Probably.
Right?
No one ever asked me that, but there probably is of him. I do remember him stepping out. I just saw a documentary recently about the home run because, it's 30th anniversary of that.
Right.
But, that's a really great example of my being prepared as a photographer because obviously I'm there to record whatever's going to happen on the field.
Yeah.
But it's the bottom of the ninth inning. So I have to be prepared that something could happen at the bottom of the ninth inning. Dodgers could win the game somehow. I need to have my on-field camera gear ready to go so that should that happen, I know that all hell's going to break loose. The team's going to run on the field. There's going to be some kind of celebration. Eventually somebody's going to win the game, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was us or the A's. So I had all that stuff next to me. I had another camera with a short zoom, flash, the whole thing. So if Kirk hits that home run and everybody erupts and is on the field and I'm screwing around in a camera bag trying to put lenses on, I'm missing that whole thing.
Yeah.
So part of my preparation was being ready for anything that could happen. And I literally was the first guy at home plate before the rest of the team got there. So if you see the video, you will see me like in this crazy, insane running thing with my gear flying, meeting Kirk at home plate as he high-fived Oral Hershiser at home plate.
In that moment, as you're making your way from whatever pit you're in to home plate, what things are going through your mind outside of your immediate job to get that shot?
Oh, that I got to get there before Tommy, because if Tommy gets there before me, there's no chance I'm getting the picture.
And he's double windmilling the whole time.
Exactly. And I know he's going to bear hug him, and it's going to be, I'll never get a picture. And then, all the other TV guys are running on. So I literally had to sprint from the third base photo well right next to the dugout. I mean, Tommy was probably 18 inches away from me where I was shooting. I jumped over this little half fence, and boom, that went beelined it right for home plate.
So you didn't even see the fist pump and the...
I didn't see it.
Because you don't got time for that.
No, he did that...
did you touch home plate before you...
he touched home plate.
Did you touch home plate?
No, I didn't touch home plate.
Okay.
I was waiting for him, and as he touched home plate, he high-fived Oral Hershiser.
Yeah.
And the other guys were around, and that picture ended up being the cover of the Sporting News that week.
Attaboy.
Because, I was the first guy there.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone like Kirk... he's special in that moment, but in general, he has so many other stories. Being this roughhouse, football player.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That can play baseball. And you're right; these stories, we'll lose them if we don't get them. It's one of the things I love about podcasts because you can't take that moment. I've never heard the story of you running to home plate.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Being in that moment.
But getting back to Kirk, I mean, he's a great example of a two-sport athlete that had to make a choice. I mean, he loved football. He was All-American. They retired his number, at wherever he was.
Michigan.
Yeah. And he chose baseball because he felt he was better suited for baseball. He saw a longer career in baseball.
Yeah.
He loved baseball more than he could have loved football. I mean, the toughest guy, I think, who ever played baseball, honestly.
Yeah.
But he was great to be around. He always struck the fear of God into you,
right?
Because he just had that personality. But I respected it. I love guys like that, all grit.
Every year or so, because I want to learn from Vin Scully, and he does a whole lot of shutting up. He's great at that.
Yeah, right.
But he's setting the stage, and it's so wonderful because Kirk's not supposed to play.
Right.
He basically doesn't play real baseball for another 18 months after this moment. Yeah, he played a little bit, but he was getting better. So, I mean, this is literally the last moment, and they flash this stat that's like I think it's like 3 for 5 in his last World Series at bats with like 2 home runs and a double.
Sure. Yeah.
And then he comes up and he's like, by the way,
well, people forget he hit that great home run in the when he played for the Tigers.
Detroit against San Diego. Yeah.
Right, that World Series. Then he hit that incredible home run against the Mets, I think, and that NLCS. And he was just, if you say the word clutch, I don't think you can think of a better guy.
Yeah.
And to be able to be there and present, I had never heard. To this day, I've never heard an arena or a stadium as loud as and sustained as Dodger Stadium was.
I want to ask you one more question on the artistic side of photography. So obviously you know how to do the sports photography thing. You've got nearly 40 years in the business doing it, so you know everything about that. But when you see other people's work, whether it's Ann Geddes or somebody like that, you're like, I wish I could do that.
Oh, I see that. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And what's great about Instagram now is that you get to see a super wide range of people's photography. My assistant, Kristen, who I'm going to embarrass her because she's sitting right here, is an amazing equestrian photographer.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I couldn't shoot that if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, the pictures that she posts and my other friends who, some are street photographers. I have an intern who has just turned 18, who's like the most amazing music photographer.
Yeah.
You know, and that warms my heart when it's somebody that, you know, has been with me for a while or is getting their start with me, and I could kind of help them along the way, which is great. But I see that all the time. I mean, news photographers, Pete Souza, I mean, you know, White House photographer who has done 2 New York Times best-selling books on the Obama administration. I mean, the access that he had, but what he did with that access, and how it wasn't just taking a picture; he was creating images. I mean, it truly blows my mind the stuff I see of his work daily. He's still, you know, he's very active posting on social media. So if anyone's looking for somebody cool to follow, Pete Souza, S-O-U-Z-A, is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see that all the time. And, you know, occasionally I'll trade prints with a friend or even somebody I don't really know. Like, I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And
Sure.
Danny Clinch, I'm a big fan of his. Frank Stefanko, both of these guys have been Bruce's official photographers over the years.
Yeah.
I'll either trade prints with them or I'll buy one of their prints, or my wife would she bought me a beautiful Frank Stefanko original for my 60th birthday, because I'm in awe of these guys, and I'm a little jealous too, to be honest with you. I'd love to trade jobs maybe for a week with Danny Clinch,
right?
Go on tour with Bruce, and he could sit courtside.
You've got pictures of Bruce on your website.
Oh,
though, right?
yeah. You know, I shot Bruce for 40 years. I started shooting him in 1978. I've had a great run of shooting him. One day, I mean, they've been published here and there. Maybe there's a book down the road, or who knows? Maybe I'll do a Mamba Mentality with Bruce.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to wrap up, but one, thank you, and I love talking this kind of stuff, and I feel like we just scratched the surface on the artistic stuff, but there's so much with the NBA players and everything. I do want to, when you shoot something else, like Bruce or whatever, I mean, I know that's more like in the hobby zone, as opposed to like you're like, I know this work inside and out because I'm a pro, like you do with sports, but what do you not get enough opportunity to shoot that you're just like, I wish, not only like I trade places, but like I just truly enjoy this and I don't need to get paid for it? What's that?
You know, it's really interesting because the sad part of being a professional photographer is that me personally, I still get joy out of doing the work that I do, but I don't take it outside of work. So I'm not going shoot, landscapes or Yosemite, or I'm not doing documentary work or other travel. I probably would enjoy doing more travel photography. When it becomes your business, and somebody's not paying you to do it, I don't know. It's just, I don't have a lot of time. But I get a lot of pleasure out of my little daughter and shooting her theater shows that she does. She's now in the LA Opera, so I get to shoot her. Well, I don't get to shoot her, but I get to iPhone her secretly from my seat. But don't tell the people at the LA Opera. But just snapshot stuff, and I hate that word, but the phone is now such a great tool. Everybody in the world now is basically a photographer because they have that tool in their pocket or their purse or their glove box or wherever. And that's fantastic because it's taken photography literally to the masses. Where we as professional photographers used to be such a small fraternity, sorority, small fellowship. Now everybody's doing it.
When you're all done, your last day on the earth has come, and the next day they're talking about what you did, what picture do you want them to show?
Well, that's a really great question. I don't know, Pete. I mean, I think people relate to 3 or 4 of my pictures, Magic and Bird, intertwined during the finals. But probably my favorite, most emotionally charged photo is the one of Michael Jordan holding the trophy, his first trophy, the first time.
Yeah.
91, with his dad next to him, and
that's like they're both bowing in. Is that right?
Yeah, and Michael's holding the trophy,
Yeah.
and he's crying his eyes out, and his dad's like sort of consoling him, and it was a true moment in time, and has sort of attained this sort of iconic status just because it was his first of 6, and it defined what it took for him to get there. 7 years of anguish, you know, and a lot of work to get to that mountaintop, and you know, it has a lot of history, that photo. Michael's dad, you know, was murdered, and I got a call from Michael's office that Michael really loved that photo, and would I please send him a signed version, a signed copy that he could hang in his office. You know, that was just so moving.
It make me tear up just sitting here.
Yeah, it was amazing to know that he thought of that and thought of me, and that my photo, you know, he gets to look at that photo and think, you know, of his dad, and that makes me proud. So.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. There's so much in that moment. It's a lifetime struggle.
Yeah.
He was a much better player than the brilliant player he was when he was young. Remember, he's like, I'm going to stop dunking, trying to dunk every single time, and I'm going to pass the ball and make my teammates great. And that Jordan was unbeatable.
Right. And
so
of course,
good.
you know, Phil Jackson and Tex Winter being the architect of that triangle offense that really took advantage of all of Michael's skills as a player, as a leader, as a facilitator. And they had some great pieces on that team.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw Phil do the same thing. Of course, he had Shaq when he came to the Lakers, and Shaq and Kobe were literally unstoppable.
Really,
Yeah.
Seriously, unstoppable.
Yeah.
And Shaq finally found that thing that he needed, and he's like, all right, you know, I'll be the big guy.
Yeah.
You guys can beat on me all you want, because you can't stop that guy.
Right,
you know?
and Kobe, again, I keep going back to the book, but he talks about it in the book. The book is a deep dive into what Kobe was thinking at the time. Not what he's thinking now, or in retrospect, but it really was about what was going on in his head. And as you leaf through it, you see photos where he's actually written on the photo. We gave him prints.
I'm looking at one right now.
And he, with a Sharpie, he would write and put arrows in and really give all of us, and myself in particular, an insight into what he was thinking and what was going on in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm there shooting it. I'm not thinking what he's thinking.
Yeah.
You know? So it was really a revelation for me as well. And what he talks about also is that he studied my photos to make his game better.
Get out of here.
Which blew my mind beyond belief.
Well, and as you're saying that, I'm watching him take on Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan's he's got both his hands over Kobe, and there's Sharpie writing all over it, and he's talking about how he learned how to defeat that particular.
That's right.
And it's, it's right there.
Yeah. No, there's some great nuggets in there
Yeah.
that no one knew about. I mean, he, you know, and I'm not going to spoil it because people really should get the book.
Yeah.
But there's so much insight there, and really gives you an idea of what made him tick. And what's great, Pete, and I'll leave you with this, is that the subtitle of the book is not How I Played ED.
Yeah.
It's How I Play.
Right. Present.
So here's a guy who's 2 years post-retirement.
Yeah.
Why is he saying how I play, you know? Because this is how he lives his life now.
Yeah.
This is what he brought, the Mamba mentality off the court into his personal and business life, and is just as focused, locked in, and obsessed now as he was as a player.
Yeah.
And it's a real lesson for all of us, because we
Absolutely.
can take that Mamba mentality into whatever we do.
The book is called Kobe Bryant, The Mamba Mentality, How I Play. Introductions by Phil Jackson. The photographer, of course, is Andrew Bernstein. Thank you so much for coming on.
Super fun, Pete.
I love it. And I love Kobe's idea. This is like the thing for life, right? Like, I'm going to play this as hard as I can. I dare you to ease up.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to.
No.
And that's life there.
No, this is how he conducts his life, and is really, really revealing testament to this iconic athlete that all of us just marveled at throughout his career.